and we're going to break down Virabhadrasana 1, 2, and 3, the warrior series, and I'm going to give you some different options and different placements of the feet based on your hip mobility, your spine mobility, and even through the femurs and the knees. So let's dive in. Normally, we come into warriors from a plank lunge to a standing position, but today, just for ease of movement, we're going to start from a standing position. So go ahead and find the center of your mat, step forward with your left foot. And in warrior one, we're going to make sure that our foot isn't turned out, but it's at an angle. Now, depending on your hip mobility, the closer the stance is, the better your ability to turn those hips and square them to the front of your mat will be. If you have some good hip mobility, you can step a little further back. The other thing you can look at in this is making sure your heels are in line, but if you have some hip mobility issues, staggering it out just a little bit might ease that hip turning, those hips turning, not just one hip, but two hips. And again, just adjust your feet and find what's most comfortable for you. If you want to hang out in this pose, you need to have ease of the pose. So, we get into the stance. I want you to spread your toes, and I want you to put equal pressure between the front and the back foot. As you sink down into the front leg, find the knee over the ankle. So no matter where you're at in this pose, you're going to have the knee over the ankle. Now notice that my hips are turned open as I talk to you. So I've got some open hips here. We're going to actually imagine pressing the left hip back and finding that crease. Now I'm not straightening my front leg to do that. I'm drawing my hip back. And that allows me to sink a little bit further into that warrior position. Now if you can't do that and your knee straightens out a little bit, great, that is okay. But we want those headlights of our hips pointing forward. So, depending on where you want your arms, we're going to bring our arms up. And when we bring our arms up, there's a tendency to kind of want to open up. So we want to readjust and keep those hips square. Now, a lot of people let go of their lower back. They let go of their core here and have this arch. What we want to do is cinch that navel to the spine to create a strong core as we lift our hands and not let our ribs flare unless we're taking a little back bend. So we want to keep that core strong and not let the back arch out. We want to keep that strong. Again, the weight stays balanced between the front and back hips. The other thing is, if I'm going to move to the front so you can see this, is when our hands come up overhead, you can keep your elbows soft if you can't bring your hands straight up overhead. Don't let those shoulders creep up. Keep them low. If you watch the serratus video, engage that serratus a little bit. Support those arms. Now, the next cue to maximize some of this strength, and I'm going to switch sides just so my legs don't get tired, is to engage the feet. And when we engage our feet, we're going to get some adductors and abductors working for us and increase the strength of our hamstrings up all the way through our glutes. This also helps engage your core. So find your position, sink down, and even without putting your hands up, I want you to imagine that you're trying to wrinkle up the mat between your feet. So we square our hips, draw our abs in, and press the heels towards one another, pressing into the toes evenly. We're going to, on the back foot, we will press a little bit more on the inside of our foot as opposed to the outside of our foot, because if we let our outside of our foot take over, our hip might open. So it'll be a little bit more on the inside of the back foot. When you do that, when you imagine that you're pulling that mat together, you should feel those inside thighs really activate. And if you can get those activated in the warriors, it will help strengthen your legs when you start going into arm balances to be able to squeeze and hold on. Again, core strong, hands come up, shoulders away from the ears, serratus is engaged. Squeeze through the glutes, squeeze through the feet, pressing into all four corners of that front leg. And again, as you get more comfortable, you can widen that stance and start sinking down. If you can rotate those hips forward, drawing that seam back on that right leg. I've got my right leg forward now. So we can find that strength in this pose. And this will take you through all the variations. So hands up, proud, flying, humble, and then a rotational. All of those poses. So you can build on Warrior One, Virabhadrasana I. All right, Warrior Two. So this, our feet are a little bit different. We're going to start with the right side forward, and much like Warrior One, we're going to find a stance that allows our hips to be comfortable. And if you have tight hips, a closer stance is going to be better for you. If you have knees that don't want to bend deep, a closer stance is going to be better for you. I'm going to start a little close to you just to show you. Heels in line if possible, and this time your back foot faces the edge of your mat. The top toe goes towards the top of your mat. And again, line up those knees over the ankle, and we press into both feet. We find the balance, so it's not more in the front, it's not more in the back. It's evenly distributed. And again, we're going to zip up that core by drawing the navel to the spine, squeezing a little bit through the glutes. We let our pelvis just tilt forward just a little bit. So from the side, if you saw me, my butt's not out like this. I'm going to draw that up. Find a strong core to support my shoulders and my arms out. This time our hip is open. So in Warrior One, our hips are pointed forward. Warrior Two, we open and find that balance. And again, depending on where your hips are, that's how wide your legs are going to go. And as you sink into it, you might find that you need to move that back foot a little bit further back so you can get a little deeper into that. But notice that my knee never drives forward. And it's okay to go a little bit forward, but you don't want to drive your knee past your toes, because then we're getting into some danger zone for your knees. There's some controversy about that, but everyone's a little different. The goal is to keep that knee above the ankle at all times. So that allows for us to contact through our feet, draw the arms out, shoulders away from ears again. Find that support through the core. Ribs don't flare, they stay knitted down to your hips. Abs drawn in, and we have energy from fingertips to fingertips. We're not just hanging out. There's energy, and there's strength and power in this warrior pose. And practice turning your head, just finding the difference when you look forward and when you look back. And find that balance, find that strength. And again, to take this up just a little bit, you can hang out here, but if you really want to get the legs involved and feel the power, press into the feet. Draw the heels towards one another to get the hamstrings and adductors working for you. So again, we find the balance between all of our foot in the back. We find the balance between all three corners of our feet in the front. Squeeze them together, abs engaged, hips are open, nice long spine, nice long neck. Breathe, and as you feel it, you can sink in and move that back foot out. Warrior Two. Going into Warrior Three, I'm going to show you a little way to help encourage balance. You can use a wall. I'm going to demonstrate it with a foam roller, just for the sake of this class. So when we go into Warrior Three, we're going to shift to balance. And now sometimes this pose is done moving from one pose to another, and you're still going to shift balance. You're not going to just start from a standing position. But for today's little segment, we're going to just practice shifting our weight without dumping into our hip. So we find the balance between all three corners of our feet, spread the toes, soften the standing knee. So when I say soften the standing knee, imagine that this left leg is my standing leg, which it will be. We're not going to bend the knee, but we're going to soften it. So it's not locked. And as you progress, if you're comfortable walking, you don't have any joint issues. Some people work up to a locked knee. But I like to keep my knees soft. It allows for more engagement of my adductors personally. So we are going to find that shift into that left foot. And again, dumping into that hip. We're not going to shift weight like that. We're just going to shift into that. Core is strong, knit it up, ribs don't flare, hips are just slightly tilted. Press into all three corners of the feet and just lift that foot, that right foot up, and shift the weight into the left. Keep the knees soft. And for today, if you want, you can use your foam roller, you can use a wall, and as we shift that weight, we're going to hinge forward. So the movement comes from that hinge motion of the hips, leaning nice long spine, and then we're going to lift the back leg, fly the arms, or if you need extra balance, you can bring the arms out in front of you. Now don't open the hips. Ooh, see what happens when I open the hips? My balance goes crazy. So we want to shine those hip lights straight down. And again, when we're doing this, we want to use those adductors. We want to press into our feet. We want to use the core to keep it nice and strong. So from the front, my hips are square. If I open up like I'm going into half moon, we're going to lose balance. So the strength of warrior three comes from keeping the core, keeping that knees soft. And again, you can practice with your arms out, practice with them flying forward. And of course, your gaze is going to be down at the floor, focusing, not looking up. So check out the video, watch the cues, and then find it for yourself. Let's do it on the right foot. Shift in, soften the knee, knit up that core, find your hinge. As you come forward, you can start lifting that leg. And if you're progressing and you don't have balance, keep the toes down for now and just find the length in the spine. This is a great option. And then you move up to lifting the leg up as high as it will go for you. Not up, not arching the back, nice and in line. Ooh, my balance is tricky today. I'm on a little bit of padding, so that doesn't help. Find the length of your arms. Again, you can use the wall. Square the hips. Draw the abs in, and then focus your gaze. Practice through different arm motions if you want. Keeping the hips square. And always, always, always think about drawing that hip back. So when you're in this position, much like warrior one, and you draw the hips, that helps keep them square. Same thing when you're in warrior three. If it's coming forward, you need to be able to draw it back. And that will help keep that balance. Whew, my legs are tired. You can see I'm a little bit wobbly, and it's okay to be wobbly. Remember, the goal is not perfection, it's progress and practice. And the warrior threes are a wonderful way to build your own sequence. And even just going through those three in a flow will give your legs some great work, core strength, and balance and focus. All right.